Hello and welcome to this basic tutorial on how to use Solidworks. Now over the coming weeks and months we're going to be creating more of these videos, each time adding more and more complexity. So if you're learning to use the software, certainly consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button, that way you can keep up with us and I'll be able to show you a thing or two. My background is as a certified Solidworks trainer, so I'll be showing you how to do things the correct way. So upon installing Solidworks, this is what we're going to be greeted by, our Solidworks home screen, if you like. And from here, we're going to go ahead and start a new part document. Now throughout this series, which begins now, we're going to take a look at assemblies and drawings a little bit later on. But for now, we're sticking with the part environment, the most basic environment we have in Solidworks. Now when we hit OK, Solidworks goes ahead and provides us with this new environment in which we can start our design. Now, first off, let's talk through the user interface a little bit, as we would do in any sort of training course that you might attend for Solidworks. So what we've got here is the feature toolbar. Now, it's got different tabs on it, and imagine these tabs almost like the drawers on your toolbox. So they're arranged into different tools that we may use for that particular subtopic. So features, this is all the sort of stuff to create 3D sketch. This is all the 2D stuff. So where we would use, basic sketch tools, basic shapes to create the profile of what we're looking to design. Now beyond that, it might differ a little bit just depending on what Solidworks packages you have. But you can see here we've also got the add-ins toolbar, so we've got access to everything from here. So if we're going to do a bit of simulation, we can toggle it on from here. If we're not, we can toggle it back off and it'll remove that from the toolbar. Pretty simple, pretty basic stuff. Now next up, let's just understand our environment a little better. What we've got here is the design area, as I tend to call it, the graphics area. Now this is where our design is going to be created and where we can make tweaks to it as we go forward. Now you'll notice in just a minute, this is where I'll start doing a bit of sketching, but for now, let's keep talking through the environment. Over on the left hand side, we have got what is termed as our feature design tree. Now, what's going to happen is as we add more and more features, you're going to notice it in here. So you'll see sketches appear, you'll see features appear, and basically it's the culmination of these sketches and features that allows us to actually create our part, design our part, and then go on and use it for machining or whatever it is we need to do. Now the final area I'm going to draw your attention to is over on the right hand side here. And these are the pull-out task panes. Now in these, we've got access to various specific tools. So if you were tech support, like I've been for many years with SolidWorks, we've got specific features in here to help diagnose issues. Up top, we've got a 3D experience platform where we can sign in and use the likes of cloud storage, things of that nature. And then we've also got various design libraries, file explorers, and so on and so forth. So there is a really rough overview of what we've got in the environment. As I say, we're going to create more and more of these videos, and as we do, we'll talk through it in a bit more depth. Now there's one final tool to show you. I'm showing you this because it's a tool that I use all the time. I'm a really big fan of it, and it is the search bar up top here. Sounds a bit fundamental, sounds a bit basic, but see when you can't find that feature, this thing is so handy. So if I go here, and I input, let's just something basic. If I put sketch, I can either click on sketch and it will start that feature for me, or watch this, if I hit the little eyeball to the right hand side, it'll actually take me to the feature and sort of say, duh, here it is here, and that way I know next time, that's where it is in the toolbar, I can go off and find it. Really, really handy, that search bar, and you can use it for different things as well, by the way. So you can search through the SolidWorks help, files and models, my SolidWorks, or as we've just done there, commands. I'd recommend keeping that set to commands. Right, so let's get to it. What are we going to be designing here? Well, sorry to break it to you, but the absolute best way to learn to use SolidWorks is not by focusing on some elaborate design, it's by starting small, getting the basics right, then later we can look to design something a bit more interesting. So with that in mind, we are going to be designing a simple L-shape bracket, maybe add a couple holes to it as well. Okay, so the first thing we need to think about here is what orientation do we want this part to be in? Now, as I've told hundreds of trainees over the years, the absolute best way to think about this is imagine you had this physical part in front of you and you were going to set it down on a table. How would you set it down? As an example, I've got my iPhone here. Think about this iPhone. I'm not going to try and set it on the narrow edge on the table, obviously. I'm going to lay it down flat on its back. That makes most sense. So do the same in this virtual environment as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to choose my top plane because that's going to be like the top of the surface, if you can imagine. So where do we begin? I've got my top plane selected. What do I do now? Well, up top here, you can see I've got some fundamental, sort of rudimental sketch tools here, and it's using these I can start to create that profile that I need. So in my case here, I'm going to choose the line tool, really basic, and I'm just going to start sketching out the shape that I need this to be. Now, next question, where do we begin? Well, if I can give you one pointer, it's to start at this little red triangle, which we term as the origin. Now, the reason that we start at the origin is, well, that's where SolidWorks assumes our part is going to be positioned. If we want to use this downstream in an assembly or a drawing, for example, that is where SolidWorks is going to assume our part is. If we start it way up here somewhere, it's all going to get a bit confusing and we're just giving ourselves more work further down the line. So I'll take my own advice and I'll click on the origin to start drawing out this shape. Now I'm going to bring this up for about 100 mil. That's the rough dimensions of my part. Now I know we're in the engineering world. Rough doesn't really cut it. We need things to be a bit more exact than that. But do not worry about getting your dimensions bang on right now. Just worry about getting the shape sorted. We'll add in the dimensions later on. So roughly 100 mil and click. Next up gives me another line because my shape's still open, and we're going to bring this out for about 30 mil and click once again. We're going to bring it down for about 70 mil, click once again, and then we're going to bring it out by 80 mil, click once again, bring it down, and as I do, notice that little blue line appearing. Feel free to do this with me as well, guys. You can have SolidWorks open on another screen. Do this and pause the video as you need to. Now that little blue line there, that is called the inference line. Basically that's there to just show me, yep, you're aligned now. So I can click and it will snap to it and then bring it over, close off that shape. There we go, simple as can be. I've now got my closed shape. It's roughly what I need it to be, roughly because I didn't put the sizes in right away, but the shape's looking pretty good to me. Now, obviously, sizing was rough, not going to cut it. How do we put actual sizes in? Well, that's where this little tool comes in, Smart Dimension. Now it's smart because it can apply to any sketch entity you need it to. You can apply it to a circle, a line, a square. You can put it between two different points if you want to. You can use it to dictate an angle dimension. It's pretty smart. The name fits it, so I'm going to click on it. And with my Smart Dimension selected, let's just go ahead and start adding some proper dimensions into this. So I'll bring this out. That should be 100 mil. Looking good. Then I'm going to bring this out from this line. That should be, as I said, 70 mil. There we go, looking good. Next up, the dimension from this point to this point should be, I'll try and position it smartly as well. That'll help me later if I want to create a drawing of this part. I'll position that there, and that should be 80 millimeters as well. So I've now got my shape, I've got the key sizes that I wanted in on it, but notice now I've got two different line colours in here. What's that all about? Some of my lines are black, some of them are blue. What does that mean? Well, these colours are actually pretty key to SolidWorks sketching. Now what we always want in a finished sketch is always black lines. We want everything to be in black lines. Now, if we're seeing blue lines as we are here, if I click on it, you can see these lines are blue because they're underdefined. In other words, we haven't put adequate sizing in to determine where these lines should sit. So we can go ahead and fix that now. Again, I'll click my Smart Dimension tool. I'll say, right, so between that point and that point, that should be 30 mil. And there we go, check that out. Everything is all in black now, looking perfect. I'm happy with that. I don't want to make any further changes right now. So I'm gonna go to my confirmation corner and either say, nope, I've made a dog's dinner with this, let's close it out and delete everything I've done, or let's close it out and keep all my changes. I'm happy with everything, so I'll click and let's keep the changes. Perfect. So now what's happened is that sketch has been added to my tree. Looks great. I've got my sketch in front of me. The final thing we're going to do in this lesson is create this into some 3D shape. So I'll go to my features here and I'm going to extrude it out. Couldn't be simpler. I'm going to say let's do an extrude. I've got my sketch there. Let's go for it. So I'll click on extrude and notice my feature manager tells me, well, what do you want to do here? Do you want to create a part? Do you want to select a plane in which to sketch a feature, or do you want to use an existing sketch? Well, in my case, use this existing sketch. I'll just click on it. Then I'm free to go ahead and add in any dimensional value that I want. So I know this part should be 15 millimeters, so I'll input 15 mil. Again, my confirmation corner, I'll go ahead and say OK. And there we go. We have our first little 3D part. Well, okay, it's not much of a part, granted. It's fairly basic, but we created it from scratch. So a quick lesson recap there. We had a look at the environment in which we sketch and create parts in Solidworks. We understand the toolbars a little bit better now. We created a 2D sketch with dimensions. We understand sketch situations now, whether they're black or blue, whether they're defined or underdefined. And we created our first 3D shape. I'm not going to call it a part, it's too basic to be a part. Let's call it a shape. Next lesson, we'll create a proper part. So please do hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you for tutorial 2.